the aisle.
Jason Kersey with The Athletic. Lincoln, can you update us on Kennedy Brooks' status with the team, and how involved were you in that through the summer? Kept updated? Were you in contact with him as he went through that?
Referring back to the statement we put out, Kennedy was reinstated back to the team late last week. He's back full go with our guys. During the process, I was not involved at all, not updated at all. That's a process that our school takes very seriously, and we leave that to the people to that their job is to handle that, and when they do, we take it from there.
We've got a question on the right-hand side on the aisle, and then we'll come back over here.
Sam Brown, Game Day U. Lincoln, obviously with the big overhaul this spring on the defensive side of the ball, heading into summer practice, was there some sort of timeline of where you wanted to be in terms of the defense acclimating to Alex Grinch's system? And if so, where do you think you are in that process? Or is it more of a day-to-day kind of thing?
Yeah, I think for us it was, first in spring football, getting kind of a baseline of schematically what we want to do, but more importantly, starting to understand the mentality that we want to play with defensively. And I think Alex and his staff have done a great job setting the foundation with that for our players. And then when you get to summer, you only get 8 hours a week with these guys, which is not very much. And so they've got to know what they need to work on. And so a lot of spring for us was educating them on things that we need to do to get better. You can't get it all done at once. It is a step-by-step process, and we do have to get better at it each day. But I think our guys had a pretty good concept of the things they needed to improve on, both from a mentality standpoint, a physical standpoint, and then just schematically learning and understanding what we want to do. So by all accounts, it's been, they've made a lot of progress. I know it's a very hungry group, defensively. I mean, there's a lot of guys in that group that have played a lot of ball and are eager to play their very best ball.
We got a question on the third row.
Hey, Coach. Ian Boyd from Inside Texas. In 2015, your first year with the program, Oklahoma was first in the league in scoring defense. Last year, Oklahoma was last. But Oklahoma won the Big 12 championship both seasons and both seasons in between. So how much does defense really matter for Oklahoma in winning the Big 12?
Oh, it matters a great deal. It's a huge part of your football team. We haven't played our best defensively consistently through the years, but in a lot of big games, including the last one in here, we've played pretty darn good. And so we've got to do that more consistently to make ourselves a better team, and we feel like we've taken the steps to do that.
We got a question on the front row on the right side, Coach.
Joey Helmer, 24/7 Sports. Everyone knows, obviously, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray just won the Heisman Trophy, but both those guys had more than a year in the system. How challenging has this process been for Jalen, given it's been at such an accelerated rate for him, kind of to learn the system and everything?
It's certainly been different. He brings a lot of great game experience that Baker and Kyler did not have when they got here, but also doesn't have as much experience in the system. It has been a little bit quicker, but it's been fun. He's been eager. There's been things that we do that he's been able to trace back, kind of the roots to different things that he's done at Alabama or even in high school. So it's not like you're starting from scratch, but it's been a fun process. He's a smart kid. He's eager, works very hard at it, and we've meshed together well.
We have a question. We got a question all the way in the rear right side, Coach.
Yeah, Lincoln Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. You lost Kyler and 4 NFL offensive linemen. I assume your offense is going to dip. Can your defense rise more than your offense might slip this year?
We don't plan on the offense dipping. And then the second part of that, we definitely expect our defense to be better. I don't think there's any doubt. That's why we've recruited as hard as we have. That's why we made some of the changes on the coaching staff that we've made. And, as we feel like there's going to be positive results behind that. And what we've been able to see behind the scenes up to this point, get you encouraged and excited that both those things will happen. So the expectations are very high on both sides of the ball, and we feel like we've got the right people in place to meet those expectations.
We had a question on the outside aisle here on this left side, Coach.
Lincoln, Joseph Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. Nearly 30 of your players on your roster are from the Dallas area, including 6 in 2019. How important is the Dallas area in regards to recruiting for you, and how difficult is it with TCU here and being equidistant to Texas?
Yeah, it's a critical area for us, and it has been historically, and even maybe much more in the last few years. It's almost kind of like our second home base, really. You've got the state of Oklahoma, and then you've got the Metroplex, and those are they're absolutely critical for us for the distance, the number of games that we play here each year, the talent, the coaching that you get here in the Metroplex area. We devote a lot of our resources to this area. A lot of our coaches are here many days throughout the year, and we've got a good familiarity and trust with the coaches in this area. So a lot of respect for this area. We've had so many of our great players have come from here, and we certainly hope that can continue.
Question on the second row.
Bruce Melzer, RCFB. First game of the season, you've got Houston out of conference, but they've got a new head coach who you've played, who knows you well. What kind of challenges does that pose for you?
Yeah, a lot of challenges. Houston's a really good football team. Has been a really good program for the last several years. Have a lot of respect for the players they have. One of the best returning quarterbacks in the country, without a doubt, and a lot of talented players around him. And then I've got a ton of respect for Coach Holgorsen. We've worked together for a long time. We've coached against each other here now for a number of years. He does a tremendous job, has at all the stops, and I'm sure he will again at Houston. So it'll certainly be a tough opener for us.
We had a question on the left side. Put your hand up. Yeah, you.
Lincoln, Shahan Jayaraj, Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Coach, jumping off of what the DMN reporter asked, 16 of your players are wide receivers, 11 are from the state of Texas. Is there something in particular that makes wide receivers from the state of Texas especially good or well prepared?
Well, I think the coaching in the state of Texas is extremely good, along with great athletes and then great resources. That's a pretty good combination. So there's been some really strong years like the year before of receivers in this area, and it's just been kind of an area that we've been able to attack. And I think you combine that with, excited. They've wanted to come play at Oklahoma. They've wanted to come catch balls and have a chance to play with great quarterbacks. And so it's kind of just been the perfect storm. And those guys have certainly produced for us, and we've got many young ones on our roster that we're counting on producing in the future.
We got three questions in the same section. We're going to start with the back, and then we'll work to the front.
Lincoln, Adam Rittenberg with ESPN. You mentioned the offense not taking a dip. I'm wondering how you reinforce expectations with that unit and with your whole team, given this run of Big 12 championships and now college football playoff appearances.
Well, that's always a challenge. It's complacency, not letting it set in. And then, for returning guys, not assuming, well, it's just going to happen because it did before. And for new guys, not assuming that it's going to happen because the teams did it before, the players that, when I wasn't there. And so it's a new team. It's a new challenge. I think the expectations and standard of Oklahoma football are so high that it almost helps a little bit in a funny way. It almost helps you kind of refocus in that, the last four were great, but what about the fifth one? And that's kind of the mindset around the program. And so, I think we've got a good culture. I think our guys understand that, and have a healthy respect for how difficult each and every championship's been, each and every win has been. And we've had to play our tails off and coach our tails off to get it done. And that's how it should be in a great league like the Big 12. So to do it again, to have a chance to make another run will be, just as difficult, if not more difficult, and it'll take everything that we have.
Question in the rear.
Tyler Palmatier, Norman Transcript. Lincoln, you guys have found yourself in some sort of interesting spots with the targeting rule, I feel like, the last couple years, and maybe all football teams have, because the rule is just up for so much interpretation. What would you change about the targeting rule going into this fall?
Well, it'll be interesting, some of the, changes that we're going to implement, and what we say, at this time last year or this time next year. I've been a fan of the intent of the rule, without a doubt. I've been a fan of protecting players, and there's no doubt I think there's been a lot of good. I think players, it's something they think about now, and which needed to happen. I haven't been a fan of how severe the penalties have been, especially for the gray area ones. And I'm excited to see some of the new rule changes that we have and how they're implemented, and do they have the effect that we want them to have. But I think in a perfect world, if we can find the balance between still making it a big emphasis, protecting players, but also not being reckless about just tossing players out of this game or part of the next game because of a foul, if we can find some common ground, then I think we'll be in a good place.
Question all the way on the right-hand side.
Coach, Alex Hickey, Morgantown, Dominion Post. I just wanted to ask about the Austin Kendall transfer situation. What caused your views to kind of evolve on that and allow him to come to West Virginia? And would you have handled that any differently going back?
I was always going to let him go to West Virginia. That was no issue. That's part of these new rules, is we can't restrict them from going anywhere. My contention was I had a concern about a player being able to transfer and be immediately eligible the very next year in our league. I don't think that's healthy for the league. In the end, I think my personal relationship with Austin and his family, the fact that he, took a chance and came out to Oklahoma when I first got there, the fact that I was kind of with them every step of the way, I think the personal side of it overtook maybe more the business side of it from my head, and that's my views on it haven't changed. I still don't really agree with it, but I realize in that moment I wanted to do the best thing for the kid, and I just couldn't get past the personal side of it. And so, I hope it's something that we keep looking at, because I think we got to protect our league on that, and I think that's something we've got to look out for each other on.
We got a question on the aisle about halfway back, and then we'll come up.
Hey, Lincoln, John Hoover, the Franchise and Sporting News. I've been asking some coaches today about the mentality of win now, win at all costs, versus the patience it takes to build a culture, a lasting culture. A little bit different perspective for you because the culture was already there. Is there still that balance that exists for you about, because Barry Switzer called it feeding the monster, for instance.
Sure.
You've got an entirely different kind of pressure on you.
That's a good question. I think there's got to be expectations to do it each and every year. I think the goal is going to be to do it each and every year, but I think you've also got to be reasonable too. And I think as a football coach, whether you take over a program that maybe's had some down years, or you're taking over a program like, I was lucky enough to that was already having a lot of success, I think all you can ask for from fan base, decision makers, anybody, is to understand that every now and then a tough year is going to happen, and you want them to be reasonable, and you want the high expectations. I've never shied away from that at Oklahoma from day one, but I think as long as it's within reason, then you understand it, and certainly I was very fortunate with my situation.
This will be the final question for Coach right here in the middle.
Hey, Lincoln, Suzanne Halliburton, Austin American-Statesman. I wanted to ask you about the Big 12 overall. It's always been known, or has been known, as a tremendous offensive league, just putting up pinball numbers. Do you think with the changes in the head coaches recently, do you think the Big 12 will still be known for that?
That's a good question. I think there'll always be really good offenses in this league. I do. But I think the league will continue to evolve. I think there's too many good coaches, too many good players, too many programs that maybe had been down for a few years that are showing a lot of promise right now. I mean, you can name several right now just off the bat in this league, and so I think that's really healthy for the league. I think great offense will be played in this league. I think great defense will be played in this league, and I think the future for this league is as bright as any league in the country. I really do.
Okay, Coach, thank you very much for your answers, and best of luck for the season.
All right, thank you.